Great. Welcome. Good afternoon, ladies. I want to believe it is afternoon. I don't know what time it is for Joy in UK, but it looks like we are all here. Very good afternoon and welcome to yet another episode here of the Uganda Diaspora Show. My name is Lynn Komugisha once again, and we will be all these conversations are on our social media platforms. That is on Twitter, now X, on YouTube, of course, that is where we are based, and then on Facebook, on Instagram, on Threads, on LinkedIn. So feel free to look out for our shows on the different platforms available. Today we are looking at challenges women or mothers face abroad, working abroad, and how do we raise the next generation that we look at Uganda as their second home. This topic came up because we are in the holiday season. The holidays have kick-started, and everybody, we are seeing people coming back home. The likes of Miriam, they're home for Christmas, and others are coming home. So it's a holiday season, and we want to really have a conversation that is centered about family, about living abroad, and especially for a woman out there that is working abroad. Today, we have Dr. Angella Wakweya, I hope I pronounced your name right, a senior public health advisor, and also the first executive director of Soul Foundation. We also have Joy Kyakwita, a lawyer and social worker in the UK. We have Miriam from AFRICC, but also Miriam is part of us here at Civic Space TV and CCG. So ladies, I want to quickly start with Joy. Joy, briefly, as we start this conversation on the challenges women really encounter working abroad. It's everybody's dream. I want to believe that they want to leave their home country to go experience life out of their home country, but we understand their challenges, standard challenges, but then there are challenges that women face. So could you quickly maybe briefly could tell us how you moved from Uganda to the UK, and tell us, well, how was it like for you?
Okay. Hello, good afternoon, friends. Thank you for having me here again, Lynn. And I'm so happy to meet you, Dr. Angella and Miriam, as usual. Yes, my name is Joy Kyakwita. I'm based in London. I'm a social worker and immigration lawyer. Okay. How I came here. I came here in 2003 after I finished my degree at Wakweya University at the law school. So I came here to do my master's degree. So now you can see I needed a visa to come here in the first place, and I had to have a purpose for coming here. So I went to Kingston University, and when I started uni, I got a job in immigration. So I was doing my master's at the same time doing law exams for the England, exams here to allow me to practice here. So I was lucky. When I finished my master's, they got me a work permit. So the work permit is 5 years. They give you 2.5 years, then another 2.5, then you get what we call settlement. So then that's how I came here briefly. So I I worked for immigration for about 8 years. Then I became self-employed in 2011. And in 2015, I lost my brother, and I really struggled. And I think these are some of the challenges we shall be talking about here. And I thought that people just need somebody to hold your hand sometimes. So I ended up, going back again to Kingston University again to do my master's in social work. So at the moment, I'm working with the local authority with children who are in care. So I am no longer practicing immigration for the past 2 years because I'm doing so much with the local authority. So I took time out. I'm also a practice educator, so I supervise or oversee, students who are, graduate, who are about to finish their masters or degrees in social work. And I can also give some lectures where necessary, where I'm invited. So that's me just here. So, to answer your question, like say, what are the challenges we face here? So, first of all, as a woman, of course, I came as a young girl from uni. I had my boyfriend then, who is now my husband, who was in Uganda. So you can see already a separation. That's a challenge. I'm living here with this big career, with a good chance to stay here, and my husband to be is in Uganda, also finished LDC, is so hungry to just start practicing law in Uganda. So you can see now I'm just a woman. I want my husband because I had to travel home to get married. That's another challenge because, you know, I had to go home. Like you said, home. Home remains Uganda. So I had to go home to get married first. And now we had the dilemma where my husband's family really wants him to be the one to take me, not him coming this way to them. I'm taking him. It should be the other way around. You see that? And it was a big debate, but thank God, his family is understanding. They said, okay. But for them, they were like, why are you following the woman? You know, but we are saying, no, it is not about following the woman. This is a partnership. You look at what are you going to do together and where you can do that together. So for me, that was my first challenge as a woman. And of course, then my husband came. He did his master's in social work as well. Now it would look like I was the main income earner at that point. Now, culturally, that doesn't look good to the family or among the friends of the gentleman, because they think, oh, it is your wife who is controlling finances. But we believe that when you are a family, you are a couple, the money belongs to the house, isn't it? And these are the challenges, and I'm telling you, they can bring a lot of friction as well. So as a woman, of course, you think you're in that position where you are earning more, but to the other side, you may be so disempowering, to them, or you are too much, the way they say that. But those are some of the challenges that when women come here and they have that vision, which is so clear, and they pursue it, you are likely to find yourself in a position of power, and that can really make you very vulnerable in our culture. They may think you are not marriage material almost. Yeah, so that is one of the challenge. And of course, we went on to have children. I've got two children here. My son is 15 and my daughter is 12. They were born here. So when you get children, you see, back home, you have the support of the family, aunties, uncles, and even cousins will come and help you. But here, the child is yours and your partner. So you really have to work together. But we also know that when you are the one who is, like, for example, in that case, I had the work permit, which meant that we depended on my work life here, isn't it? So I had to go back to work early, and that can be a challenge because you need to pay for childcare, and childcare in London is something else. And you don't have a family here. I'm lucky I have some family here who can be supportive, but some of my friends from Uganda or from Africa, they really struggle, and so they end up actually in depression because you can't imagine you have a child, a little baby, you have to go back to work, and you have no support network, that you either sacrifice your career. And I've seen that some of my colleagues, some of my friends have ended up actually sacrificing their careers because they have started a family. For me, I call it like a little bump, because if you're really focused on your career, you can look after the baby and go back to work. But I know that sometimes, depending on how the baby is, some babies have needs and you almost come like a lifetime carer for them. So childcare affects us women more here in the diaspora because we don't have our families to help us. And some women end up actually in depression or postnatal depression, as I think Dr. Angella will appreciate, because if you don't have that support, you just feel like your world is coming to an end. And also the other one is some men, some Ugandan men or African men don't take their paternity leave. So it could help if they were taking paternity leave to help their partners, the women, like, for example, with the white people, the mother takes takes the maternity leave first, maybe for 6 months, and after 6 months, the father also takes the paternity leave. Now that gives the woman the opportunity to go back to work as well. So we miss out on that, and I wish our men, from Africa, from Uganda, could also, take on that. To know that if we're all contributing towards the household bills, then we need to help when we start having babies in the home. Then we also, the other challenge is because as women, we are like the main carers of children. So we take the praise and also we take the blame. And so now we have what we call like a discipline. You have to discipline your child. And of course, you're looking at a mom who is working maybe so many hours or a few jobs to make ends meet. And you'll find that they don't have the patience. When I say patience, I'm going to talk about, like things like smacking, because they think maybe I would say it just with a smack, just so you get it, you understand. But we get many mothers, we get many women from Uganda known now to social services. Social service is a good thing, but it's not a good thing when you go to them when they have come to your door. It's just so you know. Social services here like police. And if, especially when you're working with children, so you find that many women end up with convictions, because if you smack your child, you may actually pick up a conviction, which is going to affect your career. For example, if you're a nurse, you're a carer, you may really struggle because it goes on your criminal record, or what we call DBS. They will disclose that. And so because you are vulnerable, you end up with all the things that come with that position of the role that you play. Maybe I'm saying so many things at this level. Can I pause at this stage?
That's okay. So it's understandable,
Yes.
really. You literally paint a very, picture, I think, according to what you went through. And I also understand that it's different for everybody, very different, because everyone goes to the UK, to the US, and elsewhere for different reasons. And whatever they encounter is totally different. We started off indeed hitting the nail on the head with going straight into the topic. But I wanted us to look at the environment we all live in. Now I'm going to ask Dr. Angella. Dr. Angella, you're such a wonderful personality from your bio, and it's very interesting. You work with global public health in the global public health arena, clinical medicine, HIV/AIDS prevention and care, maternal health, infant, child and adolescent health, infectious disease prevention, environmental protection. All this is really, really huge and beautiful, and we're glad to have you. Now, Dr. Angella, people get up and leave Uganda, and particularly Uganda, for different other countries for different reasons. And we understand, but particularly if they were looking at work, if you could paint a picture of how it went for you, if you remember back in the days at the time you moved to study, maybe, I don't know how you moved, give us a picture of what it was for you, because I understand there are quite a number of issues. Cultural adjustment is there. We have professional challenges. We have social isolation. There's so much. But I would want to get a picture of what it is for you, or what it was for you, Dr. Angella.
Thank you so much. Great to meet you, Lynn, and Miriam. Thank you for making the connection, and thank you for having me. Wonderful to meet you, Joy, as well, fellow woman in the diaspora. And I can relate completely to what Lynn was sharing. And I think I could say ditto, like everything you said, I went through. So I won't repeat all of that. But, specifically to your question, Lynn, what went into the making of that decision to leave and go work or live in the diaspora? It's not an easy decision, as you can well imagine. This is a home a home you love, a country you love. There's nothing like the Ugandan sun and the Ugandan sunsets and the food, the matoke, name it. We love that. And even now I'm back in Uganda. That's how I met Miriam. We met on the plane on the way back. So you don't make that decision lightly. And I had just finished medical school. I had gone to the UK and done my master's, and I had come back. And I was determined to get a job in the clinical arena in Uganda, if not public health. And I kept on looking for a job after my internship, and I was a medical officer at Zambia Hospital. And I couldn't find a job. I couldn't get payment. And I was like, this is ridiculous. I have my degree. I'm not going to get adequate compensation. I was posted at a very rural hospital. And while I reported on duty, the equipment that was there was not sufficient for how I was trained. So in other words, as a doctor, I'm trained to do C-sections. I'm trained to do cesarean sections, vacuum extractions, forceps extractions, but then there's no equipment. So I was literally, all my education was about now doing a normal delivery, and I could do it well, but I felt that hunger to go do something more, and also get compensated correctly. So that was some of the drivers that took me out. I wasn't like Joy. I did not leave a fiance behind. So I went on my own, struck out there. But I was determined one thing, and I'll say this in terms of those in the diaspora and those who want to live abroad. I made one rule to myself. I said that I do not want to become an illegal resident. So I made that choice. I said, I do not want to become an illegal resident. As a lawyer, Joy can understand this. It just puts so much limitations on what you can do, what you can earn, the stigma, the discrimination. So I stayed there for 6 months to 12 months, and I found a job in the public health sector. So with that, I planted my feet and got my first job legally with the H-1B visa in the United States. And believe it or not, Joy, I did not use a lawyer. I studied the law myself, and I managed to do all the paperwork. So the driver for me was getting a job, earning income, and getting the respect and the reputation that I felt that I deserved. The pulls to keep me back was my family, my country, my culture, the food. So that, and I was the only one who was striking it out. I was in a family of 7, and I was the only one who was going out. So that's what I would say, were both the pull and the push for me.
Wow, beautiful. And it sums it up, really. We all have the pull. We also have to understand that we need what's best for us as women. As much as the African society puts us in a certain position, things have changed, and we ought to get on our feet and do something worthy of ourselves. And I understand, really, when you say you had a degree and it was being put to waste and it needed better to be used better. In all that you have shared, Joy, and then Dr. Angella, as we will revisit, it highlights a number of issues at hand. And we will revisit those. But I want to pick Miriam's mind right now. Miriam, I understand you were a student. I don't know if you're still studying, but you could paint a picture for us as well, how you got yourself to the US and what awaited you, or what did you find, and how did you, we shall get to navigate all those things later. But paint a picture for us and how you moved.
Yeah, hi Lynn, hi Angela and Joy. Nice to have you this evening. Like the ladies have narrated, really the process is almost the same. We got started, and you reach there, you feel like there are more opportunities that you could be offered in Uganda. Like Joy narrated, for her, she was disappointed. You really come with that energy, the vision. You feel you can do much, you can make a difference. But the situation here on the ground is very disappointing. The systems are so frustrating. Compared to what you've studied, you feel even if you are ready to do so much, there is not enough support in terms of accumulation. Everything is really like there is no chance or bigger chance for you to really apply yourself, or even your as in career or as a person, or feel like you are really doing what your potential can offer. So same story. I went to study and I felt I can do much more in USA than in Uganda, and I also stayed around. Yeah, I stopped. I ended studying. I'm now teaching, but I'll go back to study. I haven't finished. I'm still pursuing my career, so I'm like these ladies. I'm still, and I want to learn. I told Dr. Angella that I really look forward to listen to your experience, because I'm one of the so many people that look up to them as our seniors, and they have walked the walk, and we can learn from them. How have they adopted? How have they overcome the culture challenges? The pressures back home. You know, we are facing with that. You are Ugandan. You know, like Joy said, this is home. Wherever you go, however how many years you spend there, whether your family is with you or not, Uganda is still your home. But how do you balance that? How do you stay Ugandan? How do you apply even your expertise into like a Ugandan situation like Miss Angella? I understand. I talked with her. She's working with an NGO that is trying to bring back to the Uganda community and help the children. So it's like you are there, but you want to develop yourself. You want to apply yourself as far as your knowledge and your career opportunities can offer. But you still have that attachment, the social, the cultural attachment to Uganda as your home, and you are still Ugandan inside, though physically you are out of Uganda. But then you have to juggle the new environment. How do you also apply yourself to the new environment and fit in there as well? So those are the issues, and I'm also like you. I'm still looking forward to these ladies. They have the experience, and I look forward to learn from them. So today we are doing much more of the listening than the talking on this show this afternoon.
Absolutely. I mean, everybody needs to learn from the ladies, because we know, growing up and myself in this career space, I've learned one thing, that for a woman to excel, you've got to work twice as much as the other gender, and you've got to put in extra work. You've got to put in the resilience. You've got to put in a lot more than the other gender, does. And so here we are. We wanted to learn, because I know for sure in all that you've talked about, I'm looking at culture adjustment. We're looking at professional challenges. We are looking at social issues, social challenges, eventually become some sort of social isolation. We're looking at legal and administrative hurdles that Dr. Angella has hinted on. And she says she didn't have to go to class to be a lawyer. She navigated that. We're looking at health and healthcare and well-being. We're looking at family considerations. We're looking at financial challenges. And then we're looking at discrimination that Dr. Angella hinted on, exploitation and abuse that we've had stories about, and the issue of coming back home. How do you encounter the outside world with all those issues and then come back home? I come back to you, Joy, and I want us to delve into that. So, because I want to pick from the story you shared with us. You get there and you realize that you have to get a job first of all. You have to study and finish and then get a job. How was it? Was it easy? How hard was it for you to get a job in the UK after studying? Is it because maybe you excelled highly? Were you known? Did you know some people? Because here in Uganda is if you don't know anybody, then you might as well not have a job for the rest of your life.
Thank you very much, Lynn. I have to say, you need some element of luck.
Right.
There has to be some element of luck. And I have to say that I've been a lucky girl, but also God loves me. I'm a believer as well. So to be honest with you, okay, for me, my sister was here. So that was another luck. My sister was here, and she's the one who was actually like, because my dad passed away when I was just in senior 4, and so my sister was actually responsible for me. So even at uni, at Makere, she was paying for me. So incidental, I didn't want to come here because I was very ambitious at the law school. I was in that lot of all those politicians now who are big tops in Uganda. So I was very ambitious when I was at uni, and I was looking at myself, maybe going back even to lecture. I'd got government sponsorship to LDC. I had some law firms targeting. So I was really very ambitious. And then I had a boyfriend, like I said. And I remember I've never worked in Uganda. I used to work in Kigali during holidays. So when I came back, we picked up our forms at the past to go to LDC. I was just so happy to go and just get on with it. And then I told my sister, then she said, how much is government sponsorship? And I said, it's 600,000. That was in 2003, 600,000 at that time. You would say it was fairly good money. And then she said, how much more do I have to pay to top up? Now, my sister needed to pay for me for accommodation and upkeep. And I can tell you those are the most expensive things. Now, I didn't know then, but now I know that actually accommodation and upkeep are more expensive than the tuition itself. So my sister said, that's not called sponsorship, where I'm paying more and the government is paying less. You come and do your master's, then you'll go back and then finish, your LDC. So when I went to apply for my visa, I didn't even tell my boyfriend about it. I was hoping they don't give it to me because I really wanted to stay. Mine wasn't like a big planned prayer project, because I really wanted to stay at that time. But then when I went, by then it was very easy. You take your application, you come back in the afternoon, not like now where it takes ages. So I went early in the morning, handed over, my passport. By then they were near Farmer's House. You remember that place there, near Farmer's House by then? That's where the High Commission was. So I submitted my visa. They told me to go back at 2. When I went back, they told me to open that little like a box, like a post box, thing. They said open there, and then I got it. They said open it, and then check your documents, and the visa was there. So that's how I got the visa. So I came in September. I remember, I think it was maybe the 10th of September 2003, and I started at Kingston University, and I'd never worked in Uganda, like I said, but I also didn't know how things worked here. I'd never been here before. It was my first time to come to the UK. So it was not very, very cold, but it was cold for me at that time. So the first thing was the change of weather. That was a new adjustment I had to make. But I've always been very ambitious from the time when I was very young, and that's why I was actually working during holidays as well. And so I told my sister I just wanted to do any job to get some money while I was studying. So I wasn't really like going to study to look for the fees because my sister was committed to paying my fees, but I just wanted some money, like to do things for myself and also to contribute if I could. So my first job was in the Electoral Commission, and I had to do what we call ballot sorting. So it's like, for example, the Conservatives here, the Labour, and that kind of thing. So can you imagine a lawyer, you are sorting ballots? Now that would be so embarrassing even for me to tell my friends in Uganda that this is what I'm doing. But you know what? I knew that this was short term. I wasn't embarrassed. I was like, I'm making some quick money here, but I know what I'm doing. So I think some people struggle with that because they're like, oh, how will people look at me? And I'm telling you, when you come to this country, you embrace anything as long as you know your vision. Don't embrace it as a long-term plan, but look at it like something that is going to take me somewhere. So I did ballot sorting, I think, for about 3 months when I was studying as well. It was part-time. And then I looked after an old lady. She was a mother of a doctor, and so the doctor was always away. So I would go help her, like she had suffered a stroke. So I would help her. They would give me some money. And then I got a job eventually in immigration. By the way, this is very fast because I was making many applications just to be a court usher. A court usher, just directing people which court to go to. And I had a degree, but I didn't get it. You know why? Because I had a student visa. So when you have a student visa, most employers are not going to consider you because you have limited right to work. And then I just wanted to be just a clerk in a law firm. I couldn't get any. And I felt it. I felt it, you know, as as a young person who is very ambitious, like I told you, my background from home. So I felt it. But you know what? I kept praying to God. Like I said, I believe in luck and I also believe in God as well. So I kept praying and I said, I'll take whatever. Meanwhile, I was working very hard at uni. And then somebody, like you said, somebody, you may know somebody who knows that there is an opportunity somewhere. And I don't think he minds me saying his name here. He was called Mr. Charles Okwalinga. I think, Miriam, I saw you are friends on Facebook with Mr. Charles Okwalinga. He was working in immigration in the admin team. And I applied to be a casework assistant. So immigration was a big thing in the UK, of course. So it's a big organization. So they even just to put you on the list to go for an interview, to shortlist you, it's not straightforward because I knew I was a student, but and also these guys were immigration, so they would know what conditions I have in order to work. So I went for the job interview. Can you imagine just getting the chance to go for an interview is also a big thing to celebrate. One, my name, Kyakwita, they can't even pronounce it. You know, some people shortlist, you know, they get shortlisted because their names are much easier. I mean, John Smith or something else, but this is Joy Kyakwita. That's a long name to shortlist, but I was lucky. And so I went for the interview. I got back, it was in London Bridge. I got back. When I came out, I found a voicemail had come through saying I'd been shortlisted. So that was in February 2004 when I got that. But before that, I got a job in the Red Cross. And they gave me the job. They even sent me the contract, which I signed. And then the manager left. A new manager came. And guess what? They said, oh, they needed to interview me again. So I knew they were just trying to get rid of me. Why would you want to interview me? But on reflection, I said, if I was as confident then as I am now, I could have sued them because I'd already accepted. But these are some of the challenges because of our culture, because of who we are discriminated. We face some level of discrimination. So that is how my journey started. So I got a job as a casework assistant. I was working part-time because as a student, you work a few hours. And then I did my best. Like they always say, whatever you do, wherever you do it well. Good work doesn't go unnoticed. And so for some reason, they saw that I was actually doing more than just a casework assistant. So then they decided to pay for me for the exams, to be able to practice here. So they paid for me to do level 1 to see whether I would pass it. I passed it so well. Then they paid for me to do level 2 and I passed it as well. And so when I finished my master's, my visa was running out. You know, most people keep extending to be able to live here. Now, I never extended my student visa. So as my visa was coming to an end, now, of course, it would affect my right to work as well. So I talked to my boss, you know, to my supervisor about it. And he was like, okay, let's see if we can get your work permit. So that is how I was lucky. They got me a work permit before I even got my certificate. They just used a transcript and made the application for my work permit. So I was posted to Cambridge. I lived there in the village there in Cambridge for 2.5 years. So that's how my journey has been. And I have to say I was lucky, but also I think maybe it was God's plan for me to be here because I saw a lot of things happening. Moving on to that, like, can I talk about like the challenges as a worker here, as a woman? So of course, the first challenge as a woman here is your immigration is going to get in your way, in your dreams, but you have to remain focused, and you need to know that you can make it actually and believe in yourself because you'll find so many hurdles. Now, for me, I was a young Black woman. Now, those are not very good. That's not a good combination. I was a young Black woman and then having to go through all these things, but not giving up. But also, I had the support of my sister, who is a lecturer here. She's a nurse, but she's a lecturer as well. And so she was an academic. So she kept encouraging me not to give up. And I think we need that. You need somebody to tell you, don't give up or keep going. I think for me, that also helped me.
Absolutely. We all, regardless of our location, of whatever it is we're going through, we all need somebody to pat us on the back and say, come on, keep going, keep moving, things will get better. Right. Thank you, Joy. Dr. Angela, I come to you. You did mention there were legal issues, there were certain things you needed to navigate at the time. But as a woman, I don't know, in Uganda, if you're a bit aggressive with whatever it is you're looking for, then you're tagged something. You're unbearable. You're tough. You're ABCD. I don't know. Did you encounter such challenges when you're trying to navigate settling into the US?
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, as a woman, whether you're in Uganda or anywhere in the world, you face so many challenges that sometimes you have to push harder than most people. And so people then perceive you, and especially in America, they call it the angry Black woman. Yes, we have been given that label many times, many times. And I often say to people, either before the interview or before they get to know me, that I am a person of discipline. That's the words I use to them. I say, no, I'm a person of discipline, and I have to be that way because as a Black woman, I have to struggle double a man as a woman, triple as a Black woman, quadruple as a mother, then even infinite as a wife, as a mother, as a Black, as a woman, and you can just keep layering that on. And you can imagine as an immigrant, so there's so many hurdles we face as women, and in the United States, and I can imagine Joy, and I can imagine, Miriam, all of you in Uganda, is that constant struggle makes people perceive you in a certain way. But I have made it clear. I have a daughter. I have a 29-year-old daughter. I have two sons. One, for the girl, I've taught her that is the way the world will perceive you. But number one, know who you are. Know your agency. Know that you are a valuable human being, and whatever label anybody gives to you, try not to take it in. We're human. Once in a while it gets to me. It gets to me with the labels. But know who you are, and then also know whose you are, because just like Joy was saying, I'm a believer as well. So I know I've been put on this earth for a purpose. So up to now, I do not know yet what that purpose is, but I put one foot in front of the other, and I say I'm following, His will. So one, know who you are, know whose you are, but also utilize the skills, the God-given skills that you've been given, and that you've gone through this educational cycle. I have my medical degree, I have my master's, from London, I have studied, I've worked for 30 years, I've acquired certain skills, both soft and hard skills. And I bring that to the table, and I say to people, even those who are trying to discriminate against me or call me an angry Black woman, is that these are my skills. Can they be of use to you? I'm reaching a point, at least in my life, where I'm comfortable enough to be able to walk away from toxic situations, and when you can do that, it is very healthy for you as a woman to walk away from that, because you will be labeled, things will be put on you, and many times they've been put on me. All the way from the bosses that I've had have, labeled me. Interviews, just like Joy was saying, your last name is Kyakwita, mine is Wakweya, is a Wakahu, and then these days when you do interviews with Zoom, first of all, they know by your name that you're not of a certain kind, and then you come onto the Zoom, and then, oh my gosh, you're a Black woman. You can just see their faces, So you have to go through all those layers, and you have to work double, you have to work triple to just show them that I have the soft skills and the hard skills to do the job. And then when you're even in the job, you now have to fight to stay in the job. And then if they try to get rid of you because you are an angry Black woman, or you are a strong Black woman, or whatever, you also have to know your rights. And they are rights, I've gotten to learn, what are my rights, and be able to fight for my rights and say, no, you can't lay me off, you can't listen to the people who report to me only who say that I am an angry Black woman. You know, I am a disciplined and task-oriented woman who wants to get the job done. And I have these things that I've proven that I've been able to do and get done. So it's a very interesting dynamic, but I embrace it, by the way. I celebrate the fact that I'm a Black woman, you know, and I celebrate the fact that I'm a Black immigrant woman. I celebrate the fact that I'm a Black immigrant woman, mother of 3 adult children. You know, I say this to my children all the time. I mean, how many women in the United States, white, Black, Hispanic, whatever, have 3 adult children who are successful, have got their first degree, and the other one even has a postgraduate degree, has been married for 30 years, and remaining married is not easy. So how many women do that? So I celebrate it. I embrace it.
Wow, wow, wow! Indeed, you have to embrace it, and it's really beautiful. We're happy for you. You see, when we get these stories, the success stories, and I want to believe that both of you have encountered stories that have perhaps broken you, or you've encountered stories that have, left you different. You've had and seen stories that are not as great and as wonderful as yours. And you thought twice or to yourselves, and perhaps you've said, you know what, we've got to do something about this, or how can you help? So, and I'll come back to you on that, because I'm certain, Joy, I'm certain, Dr. Angella, you've encountered stories that are totally different from yours, and you've had to sit down with these women and perhaps help them here and there. We'll come to that shortly. Miriam, I come to you. Miriam, you said you wanted to learn and listen. Yes, of course you have too. But I've had different stories of people go abroad to the US, to the UK, and other places, and they're sleeping on the streets. You know, they are taking handouts. They do not have homes where they can sleep, where they call their home. And they have to do that for some time until perhaps a good Samaritan comes to their aid. Or others have had to marry. Yes, and I've heard this story a lot. That if you get somebody out there to wed you, and then you get in there as their wife, and then as you negotiate a divorce at some point. All these is so we can get a better life, or is it something else?
What I can say is that there are so many challenges trying to settle abroad. I can't say it's about the Western world alone, because I even see Ugandans who go in the Middle East are really struggling. It's a foreign land, anybody. So sometimes you go, say, if you have gone like as a student, then maybe your visa expires before you transform into something else. And then you are in space. All of a sudden, the system pushes you out, and in no minute, you find yourself on the street. It's like you're here. If you lose your job tonight, you can go to your sister, you can go to someone because you know them. But when you are in a foreign country, you don't know anybody. I mean, you are in space, and it really, that's not surprising. Those incidents are there, and they could be more many than you even know. And that's a big challenge. But maybe what I can say is that the best way, if you really go out there and this is a foreign land, you don't know so many people, try to look for the connections, try to look for your community, try to look for your people, try to look for someone you can talk to. For me, I can say, even if you don't find, say, a Ugandan or someone who's gonna welcome you and really hold your hand to the next level, at least look for an institution like a church, like a mosque, somewhere where there are people you can relate to, some organizations. There are so many organizations which help migrants here and there. So the first thing you should look out to is, what will you be your de facto family while you are there, out of your home, out of your familiar place? Because abroad is really very rough, very. That is the truth. It's a rough terrain, and sometimes, a slight mistake, a slight misstep, you are off. And the streets could even be better. It could be worse. Some people end up in prison. Some people end up deported when you are not ready to leave. So those are the challenges, yes. But all I can say is that find a community, try to find people, most people who have been there. Like I've told you, like I'm here to listen to Dr. Angella, to Joy. Most they've been living abroad more years than me, and I'm really learning something from them already. So if you find someone, if you don't know anybody, like Joy said, she had a sister, but find a group of people. They could be Ugandans. There is always someone there and here if you look deep, if you look hard, and that should be the first thing you do before anything happens. Try to reach out to people. They can give you the right advice. They've been there, they have seen it, or sometimes they can give you some ways which can help you better than you know, even if it's about to get a job or to further your studies or to even find social support, because even staying in isolation is a big challenge, especially if you have a family, if you have like children and you got abroad to study. How do you really cope? That is a very, very big challenge. And if you don't have a social support, a network or a group of people you can rely on once in a while, it can be so dark.
That's right. Indeed, it can be so that. But Miriam, I still want you to answer two of the questions I asked, where people find themselves sleeping on the streets, and others are, and others have to get married to some people for them to find some footing, and negotiate a divorce thereafter. Could you give us some more info on that?
Yeah, people who have gone through those experiences can talk to them. What I know, it's normal life, Lynn, like here in Uganda. You live, if you are a lady, if you are a man, you have relationships, you get married, you live your life, you have children. So some of these things are really like exaggerated. Like today, if you see me walking with someone, maybe who is non-Ugandan, you're like, oh, Miriam, she's moving with a white person or some Chinese. What's going on? But this is life. When you live with people, they become your next life, your social network. You fall in love, you fall out of love, you make relationships, you create friends. I don't see anything so different like from Uganda. Okay, there could be some incidences where people do anything, to go to overcome the legal challenges, including saying maybe you are persecuted at home. Some of these things are real, some might not be real. It could be the LGBT. I don't want to say there could be like some one or two people who are doing it and it's not real, but that shouldn't undermine the reality of other people. In most cases, these are genuine stories. Like Joy told you, she left a fiancé here. She had to struggle hard to bring her husband back to UK. It could be not here. It could be maybe someone in UK is in love with you here, and he is also struggling so hard to go and live with you. So the real stories are so many, and they shouldn't be undermined by the one or two things which are really like under the table kind of stuff. So all I can say is that life is normal like anywhere else. Like you're on Kampala streets, you fall in love. You could fall in love with a Sudanese, a Chinese. You get married. Maybe you have a challenge even introducing them back home to Shenya or to Mbarara, wherever your family is. So it's kind of trying to settle down in a foreign land. I mean, there are
I can add on. Miriam, I can add on something. I can add on something. So, like for example, I think I get what Lynn is trying to say. Sometimes people get into relationship for immigration purposes, and it happens because, like I said, I'm an immigration lawyer here. So, but I wouldn't know, because you are, as a lawyer, you are just doing the work. People come to you, they say, I'm in love with this person. I want them to stay on my visa or on my basis. So, but they know, and we know people pay a lot of money to get into these relationships. I'm putting it in quotes because they know it's an arrangement. Otherwise, they wouldn't pay money. So women have had to work to pay a lot of money to these men. For example, Eastern Europeans, before we left the EU, there were so many EU, guys would just come here specifically to sponsor somebody to stay here, and they would pay while this money is coming a standing order to the man. And so you wonder, you're working all these hours, where is the money going? Because they have paid somebody to sponsor them as their husband, or sometimes for the men as their wife. So yes, you become like a slave. Actually, it's like modern day slavery, because you are not free. And I tell you what, sometimes these men are going to give their papers to somebody else and divorce you without you knowing. Then when you make your application to renew your visa, then the Home Office tells you, oh, this person told us they're no longer with you. So yes, women have sometimes have to do that in order to stay here. And we also know many women who stay in abusive relationships because their visa here depends on that marriage. So even when they go for counseling, even my job in social work, we meet all these things where a woman is forced to stay with a man because without that man, then they don't have a visa here. So yes, it happens. It happens, and women can be so vulnerable from all countries, not just Africa, from all countries. I have to say especially because I think African women are more empowered, but our friends, our women from the Middle East, those women are more vulnerable. They can't even say anything back. A black woman is likely to shout out. But what I'm trying to say is that some women stay in abusive relationships because of their visas, and also because they depend on that man to provide for them. So they are vulnerable naturally.
Right. I like that you paint a picture. Yes, Miriam, do you want to add something?
Yeah, I wanted to say what Joy also talked about is different. Like you are in a situation, but because you want your visa, yes, you stay in an abusive relationship. You come but I think Lynn was specifically referring to that financial transaction to make the pay. But I think Joy, being the legal professional, she really elaborated that so well. But the one of abusive relationship, that's a big topic, and I think we should also think about it. There are so many people who stay in really compromising situations simply because you don't want to jeopardize your status. And and women are the most of the time are the victims of either domestic violence, as usual. As
if I may add on to that,
usually we are vulnerable of the groups.
Please,
yes, please, Angela.
Okay. Yes, I was also trying to chime in to that same topic. Lynn, you are right. I have known a cousin sister who got married for money and ended up in Denver in an abusive relationship. She has ended up on the street. I have seen immigrant women where the husbands have gone with an American white woman instead of staying with her in the marriage and ending up in divorce. There are terrible, terrible stories of unsuccessful immigration stories. Women in the diaspora, they're there. You're absolutely right. I don't want to paint a picture of, it's always a success. But I think each of us have spoken to a couple of things that can help if you're even thinking of moving abroad, or you are abroad, or even you've had a time abroad and it has not been a success. The first thing I've heard all of us say is that you need a support system. You need a support system. My brother followed me to United States, and he has been a support to me. Finding my husband, who is from Ghana, and being married to him for 30 years. It's not a marriage that has been a walkover and perfect marriage, no, but still, he has been a source of strength to me. Having, my relatives abroad, even while they're still living in Uganda, have been a source of strength. So having a support system and knowing that you have family to support you and that they love you and they care for you is very important. And if you're in an abusive relationship, you can let somebody know and they can help you. The second is, as I've mentioned and Joy has mentioned, I'm a woman of faith and I belong to a church. The church has been an enormous source of support for us, me, my husband, as a woman, where you can go to the church, whether privately or with your spouse, or with others when you're in financial difficulty. Because there are times when finances are unavailable. There are times when you are feeling depressed or anxious or having issues. You can go to the church. Okay. And then the third is knowing that, especially in the diaspora, I mean, whether you're in the United States or the UK, there is a legal system. And you can use the legal system if you either study it or ask questions, ask your friends, ask different people. You bump into a Joy one day on a train and say, okay, can I ask you a question, a legal question? And then she can give you some. So there are laws in this country. So you can actually utilize those laws and engage them in order to survive. But it is about survival. And I have had and seen horror stories where, whether it's a woman or any person in the diaspora, not make it. And like my cousin's sister, she died. And she died as a homeless woman. And we had to bring her back, we couldn't even afford bringing her body back. And we had to cremate her, which is against our tradition, but we had to cremate her and bring her home. So they're very, very sad situations. But whether you're thinking about going, whether you're abroad or you're having an unsuccessful experience as a woman in the diaspora, there are ways to, there are safety nets through both your family, through people and through the legal system.
Well, that's really good to know. But in all these conversations we're having, we're touching different corners here and there. But something comes to my mind, and I did hint on it before I spoke to Miriam. I said, whereas Joy, whereas Dr. Angella, and of course Miriam, you've had great support systems. You've been able to navigate the issues involved in immigrating to a different country. You have had stories, the sad, bad stories, where I up and leave, and then I land there, and I probably am arrested, or I have nowhere to go. I don't have a job. I have to go, searching for help here and there. What do you have to tell the person right now who's going to watch, who's actually watching and saying, I've always wanted to, immigrate. I want to do a job abroad. I want to do ABCD abroad. But how do I go about it? You already mentioned support system. But what are the other important issues or important things they need to take note of? If it for the sake of Joy, it was Dr. Angella. You said you wanted it to be legal, and I think Joe also said the same, that you wanted to be a legal job holder in the different country. How does anybody navigate that? The right channels, the right way to do things.
Yeah, if I'll jump in first, and Joy, I'm sure as a lawyer you've come across many of these kind of cases. First, you have to decide yourself and be intentional about it. Don't go at it like falling into it. That's what I would advise people, that think about it and be intentional. That am I going and I'm intending to be an illegal immigrant, or undocumented as they call it in the United States? Or am I going to try and utilize the legal system to become a legal worker and a legal resident? You have more rights as a legal resident and as a legal worker. And there are many ways to get there legally. I mean, the United States has what is called the Green Card Diversity Lottery, which happens every year between October and November. 1 month, it's an open window. You can apply. It does not cost any money. You can apply to become an immigrant in the United States. It's a lottery. So some people win it. And that's the first stage. You win it without paying any money, just putting on your picture up there and your name. And the second phase, which is very hard, is where you have to go through this long-winded process of putting in lots of data. And then once you are if you're selected in that second phase, then you go through the interview process. And that all can take 1 year. If you don't get selected in that 1 year, you have to start all over again. That's one way of getting to the US legally. The second is, yes, you get a visa to go there, whether it's a student visa, visitor visa, and all that, which I did. I went on a visa that was a non-immigrant temporary visa. But once you're there, you have to know the law and be able to convert it to an immigrant visa, which I did. I went through the whole process. I had to study it. I couldn't afford a lawyer. I went and looked up a lawyer and they were going to charge me a lot of money. So I said, I can't afford it. So you better read it and understand it, which I did. And then that's how I became legal. So there are ways to be legal. You can go as a student and then work, and then the employer takes you on, and then they take on your immigration status. So those are the ways. Oftentimes people use the way, as Miriam has mentioned, and Joy as well, about you marry a foreigner and he asks you for certain money, and then you have to work crazy hours, to pay that money, or they end up in an abusive relationship with you, which I had a friend of mine, my hairdresser, actually back in the US, told me her horror story where she married a man who then started making certain demands on her, which were not appropriate, in terms of physical abuse, and sexual abuse. So there are those women who sometimes try to decide that that's the way to go, but you have to know that there are risks involved. There are huge risks involved, in terms of being at the beck and call of a man or somebody who you marry for money, to give you legal status. Yes, eventually you can give it. Maybe you might forget about it, but the trauma of having gone through all of that is not easy to overcome. So I'll rest there, and Joy might want to jump in.
Joy.
Yeah, doctor, you're right. And how do people come here? So the UK immigration system is so clear. The categories are there and the requirements. So you will know what you're getting into and the expectations, or, what you have to show. So most people like myself come here as students. So when you come here as a student, you can get married and switch your visa to spouse. You can get a work permit. You can become self-employed. Basically when you come as a student, because the UK is tapping into clever young people, so they're always trying to make the law more flexible for students who have done their degrees and masters here. So they keep what they call the creams. And I think we've talked about brain drain and all that and how unfair it is, but that's the best way to get here. When you come as a student, you are likely to get into real, when I say real jobs, like career, you can pursue your career. Some people come here as spouses, you come to join your husband, your wife. You can also still study. I think I always tell young people or people who come here, make yourself better, update your knowledge, because you will come with whatever you studied back home. You're not going to just practice here. Update your knowledge so that you can pursue a career here. So then when you come as a spouse, and like what Dr. Angella is saying, you find yourself in an abusive relationship where your sponsor is the one abusing you and you can't leave because of, your visa depends on them. You can actually leave. Here we have the law, protecting domestic violence, victims. They can actually fast track your visa and give you settlement as long as you can prove that you've been a victim of domestic violence. Now, some people actually end up wrongly accusing their partners, for domestic violence because they want the visa. So again, we look at evidence. Did you call the police? Did you tell the GP? Did you tell a friend or your employer? And of course, doctor is going to tell me, Joy, abuse is not only physical. And we get it, but you see, you don't just wake up and say, we even say that if your husband doesn't give you money to buy McDonald's, that would be abuse if they set you up to expect it. But then what we are saying, don't stay in an abusive relationship because of your visa. You can get help. When you go to your lawyer, the lawyer will talk about, break it down for you. Sometimes people are in abuse and they don't know. They're actually being abused. And that's why doctor is saying, know the law. The system here works. So yes, you can come here as a spouse if it's not working because of domestic violence, not because you're falling out of love. If you fall out of love, the visa is finished. You have to go back home. You can't switch. So we got asylum seekers. I was a specialist in asylum. That is what I was doing for a living for most of the years. And people come here because they are running away from home for whatever reason. You can claim asylum whether you've come by boat or you've come as a student and then you change your mind. You can claim asylum as long as you're in this country. You're allowed. But again, now the UK is changing the system. If you come here illegally and you claim asylum, they will take you to Rwanda. That is what they are debating at the moment. So as a spouse, there are requirements, financial requirements. You have to be earning a certain amount of money to be able to show that you are able to look after your partner. So there are so many categories. What we tell people, you talk to somebody, and that somebody should know the law, because some people will tell you wrong things. And like what doctor did, the UK law is online. You can read and have an idea, but most people don't want to read. And if you don't want to read, they're likely to lie to you, and you're likely to get it wrong. So yes, there is a way you can come to the UK up to now.
Miriam, for you, is it the same? We want to be legal immigrants. We don't want to be arrested for wanting a better life, or for or sent back to Rwanda because we cannot, legally settle into different countries.
Yeah, like Joy elaborated, she's the professional. She knows how to say it properly. I think there are so many ways you can come legally and really get opportunities that these countries offer, which are really super great compared to what you have in Uganda. But you have to know what you are facing. You have to know the challenges that you're going to go after. You have to know the risks therein, and you have to be really prepared. That's the only way you can survive it. And then when you are prepared, before you really enter into the system, at least you know how to navigate the challenges when you face them. And I think the best way is because these countries are always looking out for the professionals, for good brains, for young people who can come in and join their workforce. So the best way and the easiest way is to go in as a student or working professional. Today, a few days ago, before I came, I met more than 20 Uganda nurses who were taken to work and study at the same time. And they were taken from Malago. I think there is a Ugandan project working with USAID, which is taking professionals to go and work there. But if they stay around, I wouldn't blame them. But before they even decide to stay and work there, that's a great opportunity to even upgrade your career. Once the door opens and you get like one certificate from abroad, it's very easy to upgrade your studies. The opportunities are enormous. Those people have good schools which are equipped. If you are a medical professional or an engineer or whatever, you're gonna practice with the best in the world. And from there, you can be employed anywhere as a professional. You don't even have to stay in one country. Say if you have gone to UK or USA, you don't even have to stay there. You can go and work in any other country, and the opportunities are immeasurable. But you have to know what is taking you there, what you have. You don't waste your time moving up and down around, which is very easy. It's very easy to get lost and even fall through the cracks if you are not ready, because the world moves so fast there, and the laws work, they're very strict, so you can't have like panya, like in Uganda, as we say, like you can't cut shortcuts here and there. You have to really go through the right channels. So I would encourage, if any young Ugandan is listening, if you get an opportunity to study, if you get an opportunity to stay there, exploit it. But when you reach there, like Joy said, look at ways you can better yourself. Improve yourself academically, even socially, train yourself. These days, all information is out there on internet. The law, the immigration laws, whether it's Canada or USA or UK or China or whatever, they're out there. And try to inform yourself before you go anywhere, so that you know what you are facing and how you're gonna navigate it all.
Right. Thank you, Miriam, and everybody else. Miriam, actually, in my industry, in the media industry, there's I want to some sort of exodus at the moment. People are leaving left, right, and center, and some women, of course, are involved as well. And you keep asking yourself, so when you get there, are you people ready? Are you mentally, physically, and financially ready to engage in whatever this is all about? And so when you say all these things, so I keep looking at my colleagues who've left the country, and if they're actually surviving the right way, and I thank you for that. Dr. Angella says she's wrapping up at 5:30. Okay, Dr. Angella, maybe before we let you go in a few, Could you summarize for us? Of course, Miriam did mention something you're doing back home, and how you're trying to rally some people. Could you tell us briefly about that, and why is it important for the people? We think, you guys, when you go abroad, when you get there, life becomes amazing. It's the American dream, as they say. You have made it in life, so you do not need to look back. But why is it important for us to raise a generation that is going to look back at Uganda and call it home?
Thank you, Lynn. And yes, apologies, at the bottom of the hour, I'll need to drop off because my mother is waiting for me to cook her dinner. And she's 83 years old.
That's so great.
Back here home in Uganda for after a long time. Yes, it is very easy to go abroad and live a life of green pastures and forget about home. It is an individual choice to have it be your calling to look back and help pull some of your relatives, whether it's immediate family or extended family or people you mentor. You know, I mentored a young man who has ended up in the Illinois area. He worked for me, actually, and then I mentored him, and he eventually ended up in the United States in Illinois, and he's now working, he's married, he has 4 children. And so you can look back and pull people up in different ways. Your immediate family, if you can bring them abroad, like my brother joined me in Boston, or extended family or friends and colleagues. But one of the things that I have felt is my calling is to work on projects back home. I have worked for 30 years with various international organizations, such as Family Health International, Save the Children, Oxfam America, CARE International, Boston University School of Public Health, Harvard School of Public Health. And throughout my career in public health, I have seen, the best of the best, but I've also seen the worst of the worst, in the sense that many times people who want to try and help us, meaning Africa, Black people, people of color, really don't know us, and so I feel that to some extent I know my people and I know us and I know what they need, but at the same time I can talk the language and talk with them and hear truly what they're saying versus what they would say to a white person. But I also do not for a minute think I know everything. My mother tells me all the time, she's like, Angela, you've lived 30 years in the United States. You don't know anything about the village. So you have to also listen. So through all these years, I have taken on a project back in my village, Manafa district in Bale, Eastern Uganda. And I'm currently executive director for the Soul Foundation. And a year ago, they were looking for somebody, an executive director. They were not looking for Uganda. They were looking for an executive director. But I was attracted to this position because it is in Uganda and it is focused on Uganda. All the jobs I've done have focused everywhere. And Soul Foundation, you can find more information about it. It's at www.souluganda.org. That is Soul Uganda, SOUL, Uganda.org. And have helped them focus on 2 areas in terms of tackling extreme poverty. Because out of my 30 years experience, and what they were also saying and wanting and doing as a community is a focus on education. We are where we are today, whether it is Joy, whether it's Lynn, whether it's Miriam or myself. We are where we are today because of education. Somebody invested in our education. Our father, our mother said, go to school, go study. And we put our work in. Going through law school is not easy. Going through medical school is not easy. We put our work in. So education is a ticket out of poverty. And so they, as a community, Chabirwa Village and Namiangu Village in Jinja and Bugweri, have wanted to focus on education. That's something that's close to my heart. I said, yes. The second is maternal health. I literally left Uganda 30 years ago because I did not want to have my baby in Uganda. I knew I would become one of the statistics because at that time, maternal mortality in Uganda was at 800. 800 women per 100,000 live births were dying in labor. And I knew I might become one of those statistics. And so I did have my 3 children abroad. I did have complications, of the second and even the third baby. And I could have died, even in the United States, you see. So a focus on maternal mortality, because many women die. Teenage pregnancy is high. Women getting pregnant is high. HIV is high. STDs are high. The hospital system is very difficult to navigate. So you have a lot of women dying in labor. So this community wanted to focus on those two things and other things, but we talked back and forth, community dialogue, and landed on these two things. So that is what we do in a focus on educational opportunities, meaning an early childhood development center, scholarships for children, as well as tertiary education, vocational training through digital skilling and tailoring. And then the maternal health program is antenatal education care sessions. It is birthing kits, because you end up in a hospital, you don't have the birthing kit. And also trying to improve the system, meaning the public system. You go there as a woman, if you go there at 6 p.m. on a Friday night and you need a C-section, chances are you're not going to make it, because the anesthetist is not there, the doctor is not on duty, the surgical blades are not there, or something. So we are working to try and strengthen the health system. And so I'm very passionate about this work, and I look forward to continue to collaborate with you ladies, into the future, and anybody who's listening, because the job is big. Tackling extreme poverty in Uganda we're one of the poorest countries in the world, and we still have some of the highest maternal mortality rates in the world, and we still have a very high illiteracy rate with many of our youth. Our youth population is over 60%. 60% youth population unemployed, some of the highest unemployment rates in the world. So we're doing our little part to try and help that. And I'm glad it's in Uganda. I'm glad I'm able to come home and help Uganda, and also see my mother and cook her dinner.
That's great. That's beautiful. So I want to assume, is that your retirement plan, or is that part of your retirement plan?
Oh, that's so interesting. You try to talk about retirement, then you're going to bring my husband into the whole conversation. We're still having a tug of war as to what is going to be retirement, because the 70 is the new 40, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Our parents had a low life expectancy, but we are expected to live till we are 90 and 100, right? So number one, before you retire, you have to make sure, do you have enough money to retire? So you got to look at your books. You got to look at your bank account. So that's what we're doing right now. And the second, you have to look at what assets do you have? And again, Black women in the diaspora, what assets do you have, and how are they bringing in what my husband calls, what does he call it? He calls it passive income.
Mm-hmm.
Passive income. You're not doing anything. You're just sitting there, and the money's hitting the bank account. Yeah.
Right.
Then you can think about retirement. But if you're hustling every day and you're working and you need to be there at your computer, or you need to hustle in the town, then it's a different story. And then thirdly, is your family settled? Like right now, my third son is 1 year away from his first degree, and he wants to go to law school, Joy. He actually wants to go to law school. So he has 4 years to go, but the GI Bill will pay for him. So if the GI Bill pays for his education, and I don't have to pay for him after 1 year, maybe I can think of retiring. But Lynn, you're absolutely right. Even in retirement, I want to give. I don't think I can sit and enjoy the green pastures and sit and sip my cafe latte and forget about the others who are not as lucky as I am. So in my retirement, I see, contributing to nonprofits, volunteering at hospitals, and helping teach the next generation. That's what I would like to do in my retirement.
Beautiful, beautiful. Actually, Miriam, I think we need to plan to have a conversation on just retirement as for the diaspora.
Yes.
And everybody else.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So now let me come to you, Joy. It's still the same issue of us looking back home. You have gone to the UK. I don't know for how long you've been there.
Thank you, Dr. Angella.
So Lynn, I'm leaving.
All right, Doctor. It was nice.
I'm going to look for you, Doctor.
Yes, Joy, look for me, Miriam, Lynn.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Doctor. Yes.
Yes,
I'm going to look for you.
It was a pleasure.
Available anytime, anyhow, to continue the conversation, even about retirement. I will.
Yes. All right.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Now,
Thank
Joy,
you.
Yes, Joy, still about the same issue of us looking back home. You are there. Why is it important for people who've made it abroad, who've made strides in their careers, in their dreams, in their dream lives, to look back home and perhaps maybe mentor or create a new generation that is always going to appreciate back home, and say we've got to come back home and do something different.
I like it when we say home. When you said the word home, it means a lot. It means you belong there. So if you belong there, it means you have to be part of it. How are you being part of your home? For me, I challenge my friends here. And, for me, I've always been part of the Ugandan community. Before I settled in my job, I would still give back knowledge. We would arrange like at church, we do like they announce in Ugandan, churches that, there would be like an immigration clinic at this church. And so I go there with 3 of my girlfriends who are lawyers, and we just give them immigration advice. So at least they find, this knowledge for free. For me, I call that giving back, because otherwise, consultation with the lawyer is 140 pounds. But here I bring the best, and we just give it to them. People write questions without putting their names, pass it around, then we sort it out. This is deportation, this is asylum, and we run through them. For me, that is giving back knowledge. When I went to, maybe you've heard of the UK-Uganda Convention. I was one of the sponsors for over 8 years. And again, I was appearing on the panel as well to represent the diaspora here on the panel, because most of the time it's politicians from Uganda. And I just want, I've campaigned for us to be included, for dual citizenship. And we've seen these things happen, and Honorable Kadaga, they know how we're just a pain, calling for them to include us, to think about us when they're planning. And I think this is one way of us showing we remain Ugandans. Home is Uganda. We live here, but home is still Uganda. Because even when we get on life insurance, because we want to be buried home, and you want to just be taken home, then you think about it. No, we think about home all the time. So how do we do that? We get involved in communities here during the COVID time. We formed like a community network around Ugandans here, because people were isolated. All of a sudden, if you didn't have a family, you found yourself alone. We formed that network where we have a group WhatsApp, post something, somebody will come there. Because, for me, that is again, trying to be part of this group from Uganda. When I went for my master's in social work, I took a group of girls to Tasso in Jinja. Like I said, I've never worked in Uganda. And I was saying, how can I talk about Uganda when I've never experienced it? Like how it works, how it functions work-wise. So I came with, one girl was from Australia, one girl was English, and one girl from Colombia. We did like a safari to Lake Mburo, but we were based in Jinja at Nile Village, and we did 12 days with Tasso, and I'm telling you, we left that place when they were amazed, and even Kadaga came actually to see us as well there. So for me, I think you are showing, not just talking about it, but you are showing that you are part of this community. Myself, I have, it's a small charity. I call it small charity because we operate locally. Last year we were talking about, we launched the reusable pads. And like Dr. Angella, I'm passionate about education, and I was looking at how girls are impacted at school. And we did like a need, because we have the mandate to operate in the village from the district level. So we did what we called a needs assessment to know why girls are not finishing O-level. We realized that girls start primary, and by P7 they start dropping. By senior 4, they're just a few girls, and I was wondering why, and then we discovered actually most girls, when they start their periods, they stop, they can't go to school because they can't protect themselves. And for the fathers, when a girl starts, having that periods, they are ready to get married, and for the brothers, they really don't know how to help. So we did a big launch, and we had like about 4 ministers attended it, about reusable pads and talking about menstruation, making that conversation normal. And we had head teachers attending and prefects from schools, and we said, make this a topic in your schools, talk about menstruation. When you normalize it, when fathers stop talking about menstruation, then there is no shame to it, then you will be able to support because you understand. So for me, this is my passion and this is my way of giving back. I give back from my wages. I haven't done any barbecue here to say, please contribute this and I take home. No, I just save from my wages. I forego a holiday with my kids somewhere to say, I want to contribute. I want to give back. So this is home. Uganda is home. And we try to show our presence because we belong there.
Wow. Yeah. Very, 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 very good. Because home, indeed, we ought to appreciate home. Miriam, we're asking, why
Yes,
is it important for us to nurture a generation that is going to appreciate home and that is always going to look back home and say, because we have seen that Dr. Angella, we've seen Joy, that they have children already that were born from the UK and the US respectively. And so the question is, how do we get those children to come back home and say, wow, this is our other home? How do we appreciate that?
First of all, I want to appreciate these ladies, Joy and Angela. The information they shared is really, really enlightening. And like I told you, these ladies are my role models today, and I've learned a lot from them, especially the giving back. And I know they are all dedicated. I've seen their work, and it's really, really so encouraging. And they are the torchbearers for some of us who are really walking in their footsteps, and I wish we could emulate them. Talking about the next generation, the children, I think if Joy is doing something and sacrificing, like she said, you tell your children that today we're gonna forego a holiday and then give to young girls in Uganda. That's even one way of showing them where to focus. Uganda is their home too, and once their mother is really committed on that, the children easily follow. For them, they easily see what the parents are doing and they follow in their footsteps. But we need to be intentional and talk to those young people. You know, our children who have grown abroad, they have access to better skills, better opportunities. They're gonna be highly educated, highly skilled. Sometimes they have better incomes because they are not struggling at mixing the community. So they benefit a lot from their community, which is their motherland. And it's a challenge even to tell them that you have to look back at Uganda as your country too, because they already have one country and it's working for them. But I think if we really keep talking to them and say, hey, you can do something also to build a little bit to them, I hope that they would understand, because let me tell you that you are always immigrants are always looking. This includes the former African diaspora that was taken so many years ago as enslaved people. They still look up to Africa as their home. So we need to emphasize that, but we cannot do it alone. We need the governments in Africa, the government in Uganda, open doors and attract these people to come back home, either for investment, either to even to live in or retire there, or to bring back maybe skills transfer, or open some institutions here which can train young Africans into some good professionals that can help the country develop or the continent. The government has to do something, because as individuals we can only do too much. Like Dr. Angella is doing some work in her local community, but how much can she do if the local community is not coming up to open doors for her, to give her support, even if she brings some people or some skilled professionals, say they want to do like a clinic in her own area. You need the local support from the leadership there, for you to be successful in that endeavor. I'm glad Joy mentioned that when she brought her friends to work in Jinja, that Miss Rebecca Kadaga was there to appreciate them and show support. So we need more leaders who can reach out and say, hey, thanks for doing this, and maybe share areas where you can improve on or bring in more opportunities and professionals, or maybe any other help to support from abroad, but it's a work that needs cooperation. Whereas on the personal side, like grooming the young people to focus on Africa as their home, that can be on a personal level, but on a bigger scale, that also is the leaders. The leaders have to make home attractive for these people. You know, it can't be. There's no way you're gonna bring people back home when a lot of mess is going on. And some of these challenges we have today, like the political mess, maybe the infrastructure mishaps here and there, those are the easiest things we can resolve and be able to move on towards development that can help every one of us in our country.
Absolutely, I hear you. And yes, indeed, it's a multi-sectoral approach, really, if we are to have that as our way forward. Yes, Joy, you have something.
I was saying that recently we launched what we call the Uganda Diaspora Allied Health Professionals UK. Now, I'm a member, I'm a committee member of that group. You can see from the name Uganda Diaspora, because we are trying to come together to say, how can we use our knowledge and experience home to support the people back home, support our professionals back home, you know. And so we are trying to come together. You know, we have like doctors, we have, of course, social workers like myself, we have nurses, and these are very experienced people. And what we're trying to do is to say, let's come together, and maybe we have like workshops back home. We run these things maybe on Zoom, or people travel down there to Butabika. You know, we've had a group that has traveled to Butabika just to share knowledge with and encourage our colleagues who are working in the system in Uganda. And because we believe that if our friends in Uganda can actually improve their quality, because what we saw in Tasso was not what they were doing, but how they were doing it. That was the problem. And we all know that, you know, the system works if people know how to do things. Because it's very easy to see a doctor and they just tell you stuff, you know, this is what's going on and all that, but how they tell you matters because of your situation. And so that's what we saw with Tasso. And for us, of course, as social workers, there is a way we are trained to do things, because people remember how things are done with them or to them, if you like, but not what they do, because anybody could do that. So we are looking at ways of improving the quality of services back home by coming together, pooling resources here as Ugandans in the diaspora.
Well, that's beautiful. That's very beautiful. And if all communities in the diaspora, say Ugandan communities in the diaspora, did a thing or two, and it's well, allow me to say this. Some of them are complaining about the leadership back home, but they're doing nothing to improve the situation at hand. If they could rally themselves and, you know, do something for our people back home, I think it would be amazing. And I want to believe that in as much as you come together back home, I want to believe that you also support yourselves in the UK, in the US, because like we started off, we need a support system. Everybody needs a support system. And that's very, very encouraging. Miriam, I want to ask you, as we begin to wind up on this conversation, so for women, most women say, my goodness, I cannot survive in the UK, I cannot survive in the US because, man, I'm a woman, first of all, and I probably don't have the right papers. What would you encourage them? Because right now I want us to speak to somebody who's watching and they have wanted to live or work in the UK, in the US and elsewhere, but they still, you know, lack the courage. They lack especially the courage to up and you know, start on that paperwork, because it's a lot of paperwork.
I think the first step really is to inform yourself. You need to see what are the requirements and what you already have and how you can go about it, so that you know the choices that are available to you. But I mean, women, yes, life is more challenging, doubly challenging, say if you have children and all that, and you have to take take care of them, or if you are a single mom like that. But we always struggle hard. As Angela said, you struggle twice as hard. You have to really toughen up. I think women have the same capacity to really exploit the opportunities that are out there as the same as the men. And as Joy said, and Angela favors the women more. So you really have to go ahead and if you have made up your mind, you have weighed your options and you are ready for it, go for it. Don't look back and keep pushing until you get whatever you want.
Are there, for example, special trainings one needs to undertake? Is there anything special one should do, to get in?
I would say, for
think there
example,
is anything special. Just get fun. I don't think there is anything special apart from knowing the laws and the opportunities you are there. For instance, we are all different. We are coming from different backgrounds. Say if you are going as a woman, maybe you are a spouse and you are joining your husband there, the opportunities open to you are different. You could be going as a woman, but I'm going as a student. So you have to know the different opportunities and the requirements that are there for you. And what you're going to do there and see how to navigate them. So you just have to be familiar with your situation and your environment, and different countries have different requirements. So whatever could be the requirements in UK is totally different from the requirements in Canada or in USA or in Netherlands. So just understand your situation, inform yourself. Information is power.
Right. Joy?
Miriam, you're right. You need to understand where you're going, because the requirements, like I said, for the UK, when somebody says, oh, Joy, I get those kind of messages, oh, Joy, I want to come to the UK. I say, what do you want to come and do? Because what you want to come and do determines what kind of requirements. And if somebody says, oh, I want to come and work, I said, then what skills do you have? Because we have what we call shortage of occupation. For example, the engineers, the doctors, the nurses, those ones are more likely to get a visa because they fall under what we call shortage of occupation. Now, if you're a lawyer, lawyers are so many here, you're not going to get a work permit from there, because what they try to do, the UK first recruits from within. When we were still in the European Union, you would have to show that you've advertised in the UK and the EU. You can't get somebody before you could recruit from out. Whereas if you're a student, they don't need to show that. It's very easy for you to just switch, because students can just switch into the work category as long as the employer is going to pay you a certain amount of money, because they have a cut-off point. Otherwise, they don't want to exploit students who have just graduated. It's not just minimum wage, but a little bit over. So we normally ask people, why do you want to come here? Now, if you say, oh, my life is in danger, or, whatever, then we can look at that as well. We say, then you need to claim asylum. If you say you want to come and visit, then it's very easy. You say you need the sponsor. For example, is it a tourist visa or a family visit? Because if it's family, you need to show the relationship first. Because if you can't prove relationship, then you don't qualify for family visit. You qualify for tourist visa. And of course, the requirements are different. The family application has an element of a right, which is protected by the law, whereas the tourist visa is like, they've just refused and that is it. So they are likely not to pay more attention on a tourist visa. So if somebody says, oh, I have my boyfriend or a girlfriend there, we have a fiancé visa as well. So it depends on what is bringing you. As far as the UK is concerned, your reasons for coming determine the requirements.
That's true everywhere, actually, I think.
Right. And I think most people hate the fact that it is a rigorous process for one to eventually, be allowed in. And so, especially for women, because we're focusing on the women, most people would say, you know what, I'm going to get myself a man and get married, and then I can easily get into wherever I want to go and do whatever I want to do. But I think we ought to look at ourselves first and say, what do we want to do? But if it is the easy way out, I don't know how long lasting it is if we are all following the easy way out. But ladies, I really want to appreciate that we have had this conversation. And I really think that we ought to have more of these conversations, because we need to help more people that are involved or that want to move abroad or that are already there. And so I'm going to ask you for your parting shots. I'll begin with you, Miriam. No, sorry, I'll begin with Joy.
Thank you very much, Lynn. It has been a pleasure, and an honor to be here with you, spend this afternoon talking to you great ladies and sharing ideas and talking about, things that are happening in our lives and around us. And again, for me, what I see is, again, the passion for us to contribute something in our community in Uganda. And I'm always here. When Miriam told me, I said, wow, what an honor. I will be there. So thank you so much for having me this afternoon.
All right, so it's an honor having you as well, Joy.
It
Now,
was
Miriam,
a pleasure to have you.
yeah, Miriam.
Yes, it was a pleasure today. Lynn, it was a pleasure today to listen to these ladies. I said today I'm coming on your panel as a listener. It was a pleasure, and I was glad, Joy, that you could make it, and Angela, though she had left us. Because we learn a lot from those people who have experience, and it's doubly a pleasure because they are professionals in the same area and they have the experience that they have lived. And there is always something to learn, and I think we need to have more of these conversations. What is important, and I think for me, my take home is that you always need to have the social network. You have to listen to others, inform yourself. Yes, yourself as much as you can on everything, even if it's a career, even if it's about work and you want to follow your professional career. So you need to inform yourself, you need to listen to others, and you always need someone in your corner to hold your hand, whether it's your friend, someone to listen to you, someone to say, step here, jump this, move on, keep pushing, that kind of thing, even if it's moral support. And lastly, we just people should then opportunities. Like in Uganda, you have to work hard to make yourself employable. You have to work hard to tap into the opportunities that are there. You have to improve on your skills. You have to improve on your information, the knowledge that you know, and you really have to learn about your environment as well. How do you fit in that new environment? Things are totally different from one country to the other, from one community to the other. And you have to see how to navigate it all. And listening to your seniors, talking to some people who already know, or just asking around about other people, or tapping into institutions like the church. The church is so great, like Angela said, very great on a personal level. And let me say this. All my jobs, even when I was a student, my jobs, even up to date, I get connections from the church. So I don't know whether it's me or that's whatever, but that has been like my blessing. That has been my blessing area, and I have nothing really. I mean, I can't say much about it, but it has been my blessing source of support. And if I can tell anybody else, you can't go wrong. You can't go wrong. If you tap into that community, there is a big network of Ugandans out there, and they are always ready to help. If you are a student, if you say like international students, there are always networks. Just reach out. Don't die in silence. Always reach out. There is always someone out there who is ready to support you in a way you cannot even imagine.
Thank you so much, ladies. It's been wonderful, and it's been a lovely conversation. I think next time we need to do a follow-up of this conversation and perhaps sit down with ladies, the likes of Joy, the likes of Doctor, and talk about the work they're doing, so we can encourage other women out there, other people working in the diaspora out there to equally come back home and do some work, because we need you. Don't leave the country and not look back, because the country still needs you a lot. And so I really appreciate and thank you, ladies. Thank you, those of you who've been watching the Civic Space TV's Uganda Diaspora Show. We'll definitely catch you again. We are into the holidays. We are cooking up good stuff for you. So do stick around. Go to YouTube for Civic Space TV. Go to social media platforms on X and on, of course, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and everywhere else. Threads, we are there. You catch us there, but you also catch other shows on Civic Space TV. Thank you very much. We'll catch you again next time. Lovely weekend.